You are now listening to Extracting Wisdom. Here to help you prevent the decay of your future is your host, Brandon Evert.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Extracting Wisdom. My name is Brandon Evert, and I'm really excited to have this guest on the podcast today. I originally knew his name through the Dental Student Success Network, and then had the awesome opportunity to meet him in person at the Life and Dentistry Conference. A D2 going on D3 from the Dental College of Georgia, Tyler Tolbert. Welcome to the show, dude. Thanks for being on.
Hey, it's really good to be here, Brandon. It was a pleasure meeting you at the conference, and I was really excited about getting on your show.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've actually been telling a lot of my friends about this D1 I know that has a podcast, and a lot of people just can't even process that.
Oh, yeah? That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's just, and we'll get into more of this later, but it's just being at that conference. It's so awesome to be able to, meet so many dental students from around the country that are just doing amazing things already before, we're even dentists. So it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I'm doing anything amazing, but
of course you are, dude. You're attending those events, and I mean not every dental student. Yeah, not every dental student does that, and that was my first big out of state CE course, and it's eye opening, and you start learning all these things that wow, there's so much more to dentistry than they teach you in dental school. It's nuts.
Yeah, man. Let it be the first of many, dude. It's a lifestyle. I'm telling you, you'll get hooked. I mean, honestly, I don't think there's ever a time anymore. Really, even since before I started school, where I don't have some event that I'm looking forward to. That's my thing that I'm marking my calendar, and I'm like, okay, 2 more weeks until such and such. I'm booked out 4 months always.
Yeah, dude, I gotta get into that more. I know for sure. Yeah. I really want to go to Voices next year. I really want to go Life and Dentistry, Dental Success Summit, all that stuff.
That's great.
So let's just talk about you for a little bit. Tell me kind of where you're at in dental school. What are you learning right now, and how's everything going?
Well, it's going really well. Things are kind of starting to ramp up. So we're getting sort of towards the tail end of preclinical. In the spring semester of your D2 year, they put you in a sophomore block. And so you have so many rotations where you'll either work in radiology, where you do a full mouth series for a new patient, or you'll go through pedo and you'll do some limited exams and prophies for kids. You have adult prophies that you'll do, some limited recall exams, and eventually a new patient exam. And then you have operative, which can be just any sort of simple lesion that has been identified, usually by an upperclassman, that's been referred down to a sophomore block. So I've been able to do a few fillings and a few exams and gotten a taste of a little bit of everything, but they're kind of just sort of wading you into the water, and then they just throw you into the deep end right there in the summer. You got all your patients, and I'm really excited for it, though. I think it's going to be really awesome.
That's awesome. And how's it been working with real life patients? I know I've gotten a small taste, we're starting to take just some radiographs and stuff like that, but holding a handpiece and doing that. Yeah. How has that been?
It hasn't been as awkward as I thought it would be. You spend so much time with an inanimate object that doesn't speak back to you and doesn't complain about you turning his head 180 degrees. But for me, I actually have to kind of remind myself that I am on a schedule, because I'll just sit there and I'll just talk to patients, and it's just a conversation, and I enjoy it so much. That human element of it, it's just so cool. It really is. And being able to sort of calm people when, they're anxious, or figure out, what they're really there for, what some of their trepidation is about dentistry, and being able to kind of just be a friend and a doctor at the same time. It's just a really cool interaction. And obviously I haven't done anything terribly invasive, and haven't hurt anybody yet, thank God. But it has been really good just to do some simple stuff and just feel the satisfaction of knowing you did a good job. It's awesome. Yeah.
That's great. And that really sounds like you're confident, you're ready to start treating patients. That's awesome.
Well, I know I'm as ready as I'm going to be,
That's true. That's true.
There's only so much you can learn on a mannequin, and there's no cheeks. Right. There's no, you're not using water. There can be cheeks, but we haven't used them much. And, you have so much freedom to just move around and do all this crazy stuff and break your neck, break the mannequin's neck. And it's at some point you just gotta go for it, and, figure out, how to keep a person comfortable, but still do what you got to do. And there's just no way to properly prepare for that other than, going for it. And as far as confidence is concerned, I would say that in the beginning, a lot of it was sort of feigned confidence. Like I just knew that if I showed vulnerability and I showed that I wasn't prepared, they would sense that. They're already so hyper aware of things like that. So you have to go in, like you've done this 1,000 times, that you want them to think that. Right. It was actually, it was my very first appointment, my very first exam. And I was talking to the patient, and she had this complete vertical root fracture. I mean, you could see straight through this tooth. It was totally split in half. And I don't think she totally understood that. And I was trying to explain it to her, and an instructor came over, talked to her about implants and, extractions, all these things that, could happen. And the instructor kind of walks away, and she looks at me and she was like, well, in your professional opinion, what do you think I should do? I didn't want to be like, look, man, this is my first exam,
Right.
But that meant a lot to me. It was like, I got on this clinic jacket and I'm talking like I know what I'm talking about, and people are trusting me, with their health. And that's just like such a huge responsibility to take on. Yeah. And they give it to you so willingly sometimes. And it's humbling, really. But it's been an amazing experience.
Yeah, that must have been a surreal moment, especially when, as a D1 right now too, just working on mannequins, sometimes, and, I'm stuck in lectures all the time. Sometimes it's hard to keep in mind like what the end goal is, or you lose sight of that. So hearing those kind of things, that just really makes me excited to really start treating patients. I mean, that's
great, man.
A year or two to go, but it'll come eventually. But
it'll be there.
Yeah,
it'll come really quick. Yep.
So here's a question too. This is just because I'm curious. Like, what are your favorite procedures, either like in sim clinic or like right now? What are your favorite procedures to perform?
Surprisingly enough, I think I've been really drawn to anything fixed. I liked operative a good bit. I liked restoring. But for me, just cutting crowns is just like, it's the one thing that I really latched onto right away. Right. I started gunning on it really early because I knew I was probably going to have a hard time. I'm not super gifted with my hands. And so I kind of went in really early. I found my mentor and watched him do a few, and then just practice. And I'd done like 30 of them before even the first practical. And then I was just doing really well and getting better grades I've ever gotten. And so I kind of just, Fixers has this huge reputation in my school for being like really difficult and being the reason that people have to get held back. And so sort of stepping up at that challenge and getting good at something that I know I'll be using all the time one day was really satisfying. So I would say, that's my favorite. And conceptually, I like it a lot too. So I'd say Fix so far.
Awesome. And you said something really important too. Like you can never start something early, like too early or early enough. Like
no way. No.
If you want to go in there and that's the one thing that I think sometimes dental students don't always take advantage of is like, do you guys have like access to your sim labs whenever?
Yes. Well, not the sim lab, but we have a practice lab that we can go to virtually anytime.
Okay. So, I mean, I find that dental students really don't take enough advantage of that kind of situation. Like you can go in there anytime, weekends, at least in Chicago here, you do the same thing, and just go in there and just start pounding. Like we just finished like class 2 amalgams and class 2 composites. And I went in there and I'm starting, just for fun, trying an MOD, for example, just push yourself a little bit. And, I think that's so helpful. If you do things early, you're less phased by it later, I think.
Yeah. And I thought it was so cool because you made that post on the Dental Student Success Network. And, it kind of reminded me of myself because that was something I would do is, we'd have this thing that we were doing that week, but I was thinking, well, we're doing MOs today, but we're going to be doing DOs next week. We're going to do MODs. So why not just go ahead and go for that? Put yourself in that clinical mindset and that clinical headspace and just try it. You can't lose anything from it. So that was really cool that you took that on.
Oh, thank you. And it's just exactly like you said, it's just good to be prepared and fun to do different things as well.
It is. You gotta have fun.
So, that's awesome. I'm glad school's going well for you. It's always good to hear, especially,
Yeah, man.
It's awesome. So really what I want to talk about too is we were both at the Life in Dentistry conference this year. And, for those of you, for those of you who are listening and didn't listen or didn't attend the event, I really suggest that you come next year. It really is a truly incredible experience. But, Tyler, what did you think of the conference overall?
Well, I thought it was incredible. And it's really, I have a hard time articulating the value of it to people, just because when you consider what they were charging for you to be there and the people that were there,
Yeah.
it's absolutely insane. I mean,
Yeah.
Bruce Baird, Scott Luna, Mike Frymouth, David Maloney. I mean, all those guys talking there. And I mean, to hear any of those guys speak, like, you generally have to pay, you know, a lot more money. You fly out and it's just their lecture. And all those guys were right there. And you could approach them and talk to them. And Mark Costas, of course. And oh my God, like it was just really incredible. I don't think I've ever seen that many people that I look up to and I read their stuff or listen to their podcast at the same place at the same time. If I got into voices, maybe that wouldn't be true.
Right.
I haven't been fortunate enough to go there yet, but yeah, that was absolutely insane. And I was fortunate enough to bring 3 of my classmates up there, and they weren't too familiar with the podcasting world and conferences and stuff, and that was their first, and they didn't even know who those guys were, but just from the things that they were talking about in those 1.5 to 2-hour segments, they were so impressed and inspired by it, and automatically knew that, you know, they were in a really, fortunate and auspicious situation to be there and hear them speak. So yeah, it was pretty awesome.
And regardless of like the content, obviously it was amazing, but just being there, and especially for me personally, that conference came at a perfect time, because that was at the very end of my spring break. I was going into spring break. I was just completely burnt out. I was unmotivated. I needed something, you know, and this came at a perfect time. And man, just being there surrounded by these, you know, top dentists and top dental students around me. Just alone, just so motivating and so inspiring.
Absolutely.
You know, as well as learning so much from these guys. It was incredible.
Yeah. I think one of the coolest things about it is, you know, and you probably have similar feelings at your school. Don't let me speak for you, but, you know, in my environment with a lot of my classmates, and this isn't to say anything denigrating about them. Right. People, I mean, there are people that love dentistry, that want to learn a whole lot, that they want to go out and they want to learn business concepts. They want to learn about real world dentistry, and they want it. But it's like, if you get in a conversation about it, you're talking about, oh yeah, listen to these podcasts and read these books and stuff. And you're trying to like push people in a certain direction to open their eyes to all the stuff that's out there, all the podcasts they could be listening to, all the people that they could be watching and looking after and forming their visions over.
All free content, by the way, too.
So much of it is totally free and easily accessible. Like, you're on your phone, you could be listening to it right now. And it's sort of an effort sometimes. So like, really get people to take that next step and start pursuing those things and looking for what's out there. But then when you go to an event like this, you know, it's like it's all self-selecting. Like, everyone's there because they're those type of people on their own. You don't have to convince anybody that this is a valuable event, because they're already there in the first place. They made the drive.
Great point.
You know, they paid the ticket, and they're all so set and ready to talk about what you want to talk about at any level. Right. And that's what's really cool, is you just meet a lot of kindred spirits that way. And so
absolutely. Yeah. And going back to that too, I had a similar experience when I was talking to Cole Hackett from the Life and Dentistry podcast. You know, he's like, oh, you know, here's the poster, like spread it around. Yeah, of course. Big stud. And, you know, he's like, spread this around, you know, post the flyer in a group chat or whatever. And I'll never forget, I'm not going to like, you know, call anybody out or anything, but the first reply to when I said, hey guys, like, this is going to be an awesome event, like, come out, I said, all I'm trying to do is understand cardiovascular physiology right now. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, okay, yes, I understand. Like, obviously we have a high course load right now, but like it's so important to go to these events. It really is. Yeah. And obviously school is important too, but you don't learn everything at school. You'll get a much more rounded education, and you're going to be so ready to hit the ground running if you go to these events as opposed to not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I see a lot of people that are running as fast as they can, and they have no idea what direction they're running or where they're getting to. You know, it's like they'll hold themselves up in their rooms and they'll study, you know, cardiovascular physiology, which of course is important, or micro or something like that, and they'll know all about it and they'll get these A's on tests, but then ultimately they're burned out. And I believe that it's not because of the effort they're putting in that they're getting burned out, because they're inherently hardworking people. It's just that you get disconnected from why you're there and what you're doing it for. It's like you're just, a hamster on a wheel. And I feel like when you go to these conferences, you realize, I mean, you already said it, you realize what you're actually doing all this for, what it's all about. And if you don't have that sight, that's how you get burnt out. That's how you lose faith and inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's smart what you're doing too, is by the time you finish a conference, you're trying to plan the next one, which is just like, you got to have those
Always.
little, you got to have an end date here and have something to look forward to, because that's going to keep you motivated all throughout dental school. I think that's a great idea, and something I'm going to start doing myself, because that's a great point.
Yeah, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, for sure. So what were what were some of the biggest takeaways, or like some of the biggest things that you learned at the conference?
That's a good question. So I had already heard a few of those talks before in different places.
Okay.
And so they certainly, if it were my first time there, it would be very, very difficult to say, which one was most impactful, because they were all impactful in their own ways.
Right. Definitely.
Where I'm at currently, I have, I've been to the Dental Success Summit. I've heard Mark Costa speak before. I've read his book. I had pretty much already heard that presentation, in at least some version of it.
Okay.
It's still great. It's still good to have a refresher, but it's like, on the business side of things, I certainly don't know everything, but I'm pretty comfortable with it. And I don't feel like it's all novel information to me.
Right.
It was actually the clinical portion of things, surprisingly to me,
right.
That really, really like made an impression on me. I was furiously writing notes the whole time. That was, Dr. Mike Frymouth was giving his presentation on interior implants, cosmetic cases. And I mean, that was just astounding to me. It's like seeing all the sorts of factors that go into that treatment plan.
Oh my gosh.
And how different things are important. And I couldn't write fast enough.
Right.
And sad story, I don't know if I told you this, but right at the end of the conference, as everybody was walking out, they had the open bar and everybody's talking and everything.
Right.
I had left my stuff where we were sitting at the table right next to my jacket. And I'd gone back in to get my jacket and the custodians had come up and they'd thrown my notes away.
No way, dude.
I lost all my notes. I have not a single note from that whole conference.
No, dude. Wow. That's such a bummer.
It is a bummer.
Hopefully got it stored up here though.
Yeah. It's locked in. You could hold me accountable for any of that information for sure. But you can't take away the relationships that get made and the hands you shake and stuff. So, I mean, it was an absolutely wonderful conference, and I hope to be there next year, and I hope to bring even more people. So,
and that's the thing too. Obviously the things that you learn and that Dr. Mike Frymouth's, lecture was just like, my head was spinning after that. Obviously, like D1, I haven't learned everything yet. And
I can imagine.
But it was amazing to hear, and especially I loved Dr. David Maloli's talk.
Oh my God!
And that was probably from just a life standpoint, that was the one that really stood out to me. Just because we're all. It kind of takes a special person to want to be a dentist, and that person is typically type A, very devoted and loves their work. And it's always a great reminder really to slow down and enjoy life every once in a while. That's one thing we get so, especially in dental school, it's so hard to get caught up in everything. And, you forget to live a little. And I think that's just, his talk was just a great reminder of that.
Yeah. It's always good to have somebody like him, especially if it is him, at a conference like that, because I think a lot of the speakers at some point in their lives probably went through it to where, and many of them spoke about it, where they were at a point in their lives where they were successful, through many different definitions of success. They were having monetary success and they had all these things that they had set goals for, but they were ultimately unhappy because they had lost, what it was really all about. And David Maloli is somebody that really has that down and understands, what it's really all about. He talks about, having that Corey Glenn moment, he actually referred to it as, and obviously if you weren't there, you might not know what that means, but just being able to sort of breathe it in and be present in that moment and not always be worried about what's going on at work or what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
I mean, I think everyone needs that talk for sure sometimes, especially type A type people. You make a great talk there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's so hard for me to do that. Like even on spring break, I was trying to find something to do. It's like, I can't just sit down and relax every once in a while. It's so hard for me. for whatever
Yeah,
reason.
you get angsty. You get really angsty.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean exactly. I mean, I actually have my spring break coming up after tomorrow. I get out of class and I'm on my way.
Congratulations. That's nice.
Well, thank you very much. And if I didn't have something dental planned during the week, and people laugh at me for this, but like if I weren't doing something dentistry related, I would go crazy. And I'm going to be shadowing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
For a couple of days at a dentist kind of near where I live, and I'm really looking forward to that. And that's kind of what's on my mind right now. Well, no, that's not true. I'm going to go visit my fiance. That's what's on my mind. But
there
after
that, yeah, there you go. There you go.
I'm going to be shadowing. So like, yeah, that's how I plan my breaks generally. Like, okay, what can I, how can I squeeze dentistry into this?
Right.
But it's not a labor when you love it, when you really care about it. And I feel that we're in such a good position, doing something that we're actually passionate about, to where, your professional growth is so intrinsically tied into your own personal growth.
Right.
Such that like, it's almost selfish, like you go and learn this industry stuff, and it's not because you have to, it's not because anyone tells you to, it's because that it's helping you as a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about for me.
And the one thing that my classmates always ask me too, because they'll see some of my posts or whatever, and they're like, "Brandon, you're crazy. Like, why are you in sim lab like at 8 a.m. on a Saturday?" I'm like, "Well, it's just because I love to do it. It's fun to me, and just
man.
When something you're doing something that you love and it's fun to you, like you're just going to get better.
It's not work.
Yeah. It's not work, exactly. And just going to these conferences is just another thing to propel you forward in your career. And it's not even just the lecture component too. It's like you said, it's the hands that you shake and the people that you meet. It was, unbelievable. When I was walking in, I think it was Friday night. It was that night I was checking in, and I look over, and it was, Dr. Cole Hackett, it was Dr. Costas, it was Dr. Maluli, and a whole bunch of guys. And I turn and look to my left, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're all standing right there. I think they're just coming back from like a bourbon tour or something like that, But it was just surreal, because, we listen to these guys every single day on their podcasts, and we read about them and follow them on social media. But it was like, they're like our dental celebrities. It's really cool to meet them.
Absolutely. I absolutely nerd out over seeing people that I listen to in podcasts and stuff. But the ironic thing about it is, like, if you said that to Cole or Joseph or any of those guys in life dentistry, they just laugh at you, because like, they started doing exactly what you're doing. Like, they were just podcasting, they looked up to Mark Costas and a bunch of different people, and now they just, they're friends with them and text them all the time. And that's just because they decided to be engaged and go after it, So I wouldn't be surprised if you end up being one of those titans one day and having people nerd out over you. So it probably won't be too long for that.
Well, and this is just something I love to do. I love to make connections, with students like yourself, especially if, somebody may have won a full trip to the implant pathway. Now
what a lucky bastard that must be.
Oh yeah, I wonder who. still working on a bride, by the way, but we'll see. No, but it's just something I love to do, and I love to give back, and I love to help other dental students. It's just something that I love to do.
Yeah, man, I applaud you for doing it. I think it's a very valuable service, and you're laying down a framework not just for your own success, but for other people to follow along your footsteps. And I just think that's awesome.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Well, I think we'll start wrapping it up here. Do you have anything else to say? Maybe some advice to dental students out there? I know I'm putting you on the spot. I'm sorry. I do this to everybody, but
dude, come on.
I know, but like, it doesn't have to be, it could be clinical. It could be just life related, whatever. Like, just one tidbit maybe to help others, get better and prepare for their career in dentistry.
All right. Well, bear with me. So,
okay.
I think that there are a lot of times when, you're considering, taking a step forward in dentistry, and you're trying to, it doesn't matter if it's clinical, if it's business, if you're trying to go off to a seminar somewhere, you're going to have people that react a number of different ways. Some people are going to be very impressed. Some people are going to be a bit bewildered as to why you, as a D1 or whatever, are going off and doing these things. You don't even know how to do composites.
Right.
How to do composites, but you know what I mean. You'll get people that kind of just tell you to stay in your lane. Work on the fundamentals, or just be a D1. Just focus on your classes. Just stay in your book. there's nothing wrong with those people. I'm sure they're well-intentioned when they say that. But I would just recommend that you understand that's just their opinion. And if you feel drawn to doing something precociously, if you feel bold and you want to go out and you want to go and try and learn implants because you're a D2, or you want to go just walk up to Mark Costas or somebody and shake their hand and say, hey, I want to work for you, or I want to, I want to pick your brain, just go for it. I mean, Be brave, be ambitious, dare to be different. I think that there's a lot of security that comes along in dental school when you're doing what other people are doing. Like if you're in clinic or something, or let's say you're in a practical and like you feel like you finished early and you look around and a bunch of people are still working, you're like, okay, what did I forget? Like you want to make sure that there's sort of a hive mind, safety blanket there, because you want to know that you're just on pace with everybody else.
Right.
And I would just say, don't be afraid to break the mold every now and then. Most of the people that you'll look up to, most of the people that will be teaching you things, at some point in their lives broke a mold and did something that no one else was doing at the time. And just understand that even when you think you're breaking the mold, you're doing something unique, there's probably someone else out there doing it too, or that's done it before you in a generation past. Like there's George Hariri's out there, there's Derek Williams out there, there's all kinds of people that just in dental school said, you know what, I'm gonna do something crazy. Like I'm gonna go try and buy a practice, or I'm gonna buy right out of school and kill it. Like Matthew from Life of Dentistry, 2 practices by the time he graduated. And if he told anybody, I bet if he told anybody in his dental school that he was going to do it, they would have wanted to slap him. Like, who do you think you are? And of course he has different perspectives on whether or not that was, really the right decision for him at the time. But you know what? He was just brave, and he just said, you know what, I'm just going to do this. And just, I guess that's my advice. Just be bold. And, I'm not saying don't listen to anybody, but listen to yourself too. Listen to your heart. If it's something you want to do, follow it.
I think that was the best way we could have ended this podcast, is with that. That's awesome advice, dude.
Really brought it around, didn't I?
you really did. No, but that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, hey, thanks so much for taking time out of your day and, being on the podcast. I appreciate it. And
dude, thank you.
Hey, absolutely. And I hope you have an awesome spring break. Enjoy it.
I shall, man. I really appreciate it. It's absolutely been an honor, and I hope to get on again sometime when I've done something cool, and then I can brag about it.
Absolutely, man. I'll have you on again soon for sure. All right, man. Have a good one. Take care.
You too, buddy. Take it easy.